Ahoy, mateys! Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode this week. Appreciate those who are listening and appreciate those who continue to listen on a regular basis. So try to build up this podcast. Anybody that can like, rate, share, subscribe, all that good stuff that keeps podcasters going, always appreciate. And feel free to reach out to me if you need me to help you with any vacation stuff, especially a cruise. Jay's Paradise Travels, either on Instagram or Facebook, or j.paradise.travels@gmail.com. You can reach out to me that way too. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience on Celestyal. And initially, when I was going over my notes and thinking about what to do for this podcast. A previous podcast, I had mentioned about a trip to Athens, Greece. And within that family trip that we had taken, we did a cruise, a smaller cruise that lasted between, I believe it was from like Monday to Friday. That's the cruise that I was going to talk about. Um, Initially, I was just going to talk about the ports that we went to, the different destinations. And I was only going to briefly mention a little bit about the cruise line itself. And the reason being was because the ship that we went on, it was the Celestial Olympia. Celestial is a small cruise line, and the name of the ship that we went on was called the Olympia. Since we've been on that cruise, they've gotten rid of the Olympia, and I believe they had two cruise ships before, and I believe at least the one we went on, I think the other one they got rid of, and have got two other ones now. So I thought, okay, I'll just talk about the destinations we went to, and just kind of briefly mention a little bit about the cruise line itself, or the cruise ship itself. But as I'm sitting there beforehand writing out my notes and going over things, I wrote down enough stuff where I thought, you know what, maybe I could do an entire episode on the cruise line, because normally I do. Previous podcasts that I've done when I've talked about a cruise line or cruise that we've been on, I'll break it up between the cruise ship itself as well as the destinations. The cruise ship itself is usually what I mention about what my experience is. I don't just say my experience on Carnival, I say my experience on Carnival Freedom and so on and so forth. So I thought about it and I was like, okay, you know what? Instead of doing the Celestial Olympia, because that's no longer there, why talk about it if I can't sell it to you? If I can't help you with that, then might as well just talk about Celestial itself and talk about Celestial. And so that's what I'm going to do in this podcast. I'm going to talk about my experience on Celestial. Once again, the destinations that we went on, I'll talk about it in another podcast. This was a smaller cruise line. Whether or not I'll have a super long podcast on it, I guess we'll just see as I start talking about it. A lot of times my longer ones do deal with the cruise ship, the cruise line itself. When I talk about those, as opposed to the destinations of the sports games that I go to. We did go to quite a few destinations within a relatively short amount of time, and that again will be talked about in another podcast. But for this, we'll talk about Celestial, my experience with them, a cruise line that I've been on once. My dad has gone on many times since, and not bad. Again, a smaller cruise line in itself that kind of really goes around the Mediterranean area. Not only do they go to, I mean, they go to a lot of different Greek islands, which is very nice, very beautiful, but they also go to other areas as well. They're getting into like Croatia, they go into um, Turkey, different places there. They go to Cyprus, um, and now they're even kind of getting into like the Arabian Gulf, which is where my dad's going to be going here pretty soon as well. Such places like Dubai, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. One of the ones he went to was Egypt. So they go to Montenegro. So they uh, Croatia. They go to quite a lot of different spots for only being a smaller cruise line. They go to a lot of different areas. And again, that Arabian Gulf is they're looks like they're going to start heading into there. Try that out too. And if that's somewhere you think that you'd like to go and try, let me know. I'll be able to help you out with this. We didn't go that far. We went mainly just around Greek islands, and we did go to Turkey at one point, which was really nice. Again, I'll talk about that later. So this is a little bit of a smaller cruise ship that we went on, and it's a smaller cruise line, only a couple, very similar to Margaritaville at Sea. I think when I talked about that one, they're not a humongous, they're not Carnival, they're not Royal Caribbean, Princess, they're not. It's not a huge fleet, a little bit smaller, but doesn't mean that they're not nice in itself. When we got there, so on this cruise that we went on, it was myself and my wife. My dad was there. His cousin and his wife were going to be going on it as well. He had previously gone on it before. And then my uncle, aunt, and my girl cousins that I have, Maddie, Abby, and Azaria. We were all together on this cruise. So this is actually the first time um, that I was going on a cruise with other family members instead of just my parents. I'd gone on all cruises with my parents before, or at least one of my parents. Um, and this was the first cruise that we did after my mom's death too, back in 2022. So it has a little special place in my heart. Was one of the reasons we were going to Greece as a family, just kind of part of that uh, grieving process, just be together as a family. Um, so it has a little bit of a special place in my heart for that, I guess you could say. So we get there a few days before we see Athens, which was nice, and that was in a previous podcast I recorded. Day of the cruise, we kind of got there separately because me and my wife and my dad were staying at his cousin's, and the rest of the family were staying at a hotel somewhere else. And we eventually, you know, met together there on the ship. When we got there, there was a little bit of confusion as to like where to park. So my dad's cousin um, has a little bit of a limitation with the way he can walk due to a disability that he has. And so there was a spot that he wanted to park in, but they wouldn't let him for whatever reason. This was an argument in Greek that I did not understand. uh, but whatever. My dad ended up having to park elsewhere, and then I believe he got shuttled back or he walked back, one of the two. We had all our luggage out there. We dropped off all that. He went and did that and came back himself. And then later, as we were going in to check in, um, someone parked in that area where my dad's cousin wanted to park. So there led to even more argument. What's going on? Why we couldn't park there? Um, Again, that was an argument in Greek. Couldn't understand it. Just know that it happened. It happened. We get in there, and and the last cruise that we had went on before that, before my mom died, was the Mardi Gras, which is this humongous carnival ship, which with thousands of people, and it's a big process to be able to get in, and that's what I remembered. And and a lot of times I do tell people if it's your first time going on a cruise, it is nice to be able to go with people that have been before. That way they can kind of hold your hand a little bit through that embarking process of going through security, checking in, doing everything you need to that, your bags, going on the ship, getting your room, all that. It's not that it's impossible to be able to do that on your own. It's just nice if someone has been there before, can kind of help you along. It might not be as overwhelming if you have someone who's done it before. So that's what I was thinking for my uncle and aunt, cousins, because they had never been on a cruise. My youngest girl cousin already may have, because her mom does work for um, at the port where they embark people for Carnival. So she may have been on a cruise before. Can't remember if she has or not. She's been on, probably at least on a cruise ship, anyways. Either way, the rest of them at least first time. So I believe they had gotten there ahead of us before, but they were already on the ship by the time we got on there, I believe. And it was a very it wasn't so since it wasn't a huge ship, it wasn't a huge line, it wasn't a very overwhelming process. It actually ended up being relatively very easy and simple, and I think it didn't overwhelm them because if I remember correctly, they were on before, or at least, or maybe we got there at the same time, and no, no, I'm pretty sure I think they went on before us. Either way, it wasn't difficult, and it was a smooth process, which is nice. When you're going on there, if it could not be complicated, if it not be overwhelming, awesome. And it wasn't. It wasn't overly complicated. It wasn't difficult. We got through security. We checked our bags. We checked in. I did all that good stuff very easily. And here it was, the Celestial Olympia. Not a humongous ship, especially since the last one we went on with the Mardi Gras. But nevertheless, it was a cruise, and I was excited to go on it. We had an interior room. And the interior room itself was typical of an interior room. In our cabin, they didn't have our beds together. They came down from the wall, which was fine. I mean, we were okay with that. It wasn't like it was days, weeks on end that we were going to be in there. It was just less than a week, so we were okay. Sleeping separated. Um, it was a typical interior room. Right across from us was our three girl cousins, my three girl cousins. Right next to us was my uncle and aunt. And then kind of like just down the hall a little bit behind us, my dad. So we were all in the same general facility. My dad's cousin, and he had connections. Through his work, he has connections with like everybody in Greece. It's pretty amazing. Um, he had an ocean view, I believe, and it was a couple floors up, which he was very generous. He was going to let us stay in there as like a gift to me and Selena, and I thought that was really nice. But I felt kind of awkward taking this thing, like I know he's got a little bit of a disability, and you know, as nice as it was, and I know with Greeks, you see, you deny a gift to a Greek person, they might take offense to it. Uh, but I like that we were around the family where we were, and he could have it. So he didn't throw a fuss about it when we kindly declined. We stayed in our room, and the cabin was a typical interior cabin. Not horrible and not great. It's just typical interior cabin. And because the last time that I was on the Mardi Gras, it was such a humongous ship, it took, forever to get everywhere. With this one, because it was a little of a smaller ship, anytime I needed to get anywhere, I was like, oh, if I'm up on deck, oh, I forgot something in the room, and go back and get it. I'm there within 2 minutes. It's like, oh, I'm already here. Yeah, that was quick. That was easy. Elevators weren't, too long, or I could take the stairs, and there I was. They had some shops. It was just just a few. They had a little library there. Everything like at a ship, but just kind of at a smaller, compact size. Um, and I remember every night, me and my cousins would play a game called euchre. If you're from Michigan, maybe Ohio area, you probably know what that game is. Midwest area. If you're outside of it, you may not know or have ever heard of euchre. Um, It's a card game. Four people play. Best way I can describe it, if you've ever played the game War, you know, high card wins. It's like that, just you have a partner to help you. That's the best way I can quickly describe it. Anyways, we played every night with the family. That was nice. My uncle and aunt, they would walk around a lot. Um, and on deck, they had a pool and everyone in it. I remember they had dance classes that they would do on deck, like salsa or merengue, whatever it was. Um, I remember seeing my cousins do it. I'll watch. I can't dance. I watched it. Um, they had that, and then the cabin steward, if I remember correctly, was real nice. Um, and the staff, wasn't too bad as well. Nothing stood out to me, but I don't remember anyone being rude or anything. There was one waiter in the dining room. It was just a little interesting, a little different. Um, when we had ordered something. We ordered like a couple dishes, I think it was, which is typical for me. At least it used to be until they started charging everything. Um, and he's like, "Yep, we'll get that to you. You finish your meal first, and then we can order something else." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's a little different." I used to just be able to order whatever I want. Now, granted, it was still free, as I've mentioned in some previous podcasts. Now it's like they limit you to one, two on Carnival. After that, you got to pay, which really grinds my gears. This one, they didn't have that limit, but they didn't want to waste it, I guess, which I guess makes sense. So they would make you finish your meal and then they would give you another one. At least that guy did. Maybe not all of them. It was pretty much open seating when we went. I don't recall having a dining time, and I don't recall having the same wait staff and everything like that. I think it was pretty much open seating. They had a buffet. I remember they did have. It was like a very long buffet when they had a buffet. in the dining room. But they also had a buffet in the back of the ship as well, and that had I, at breakfast time it was kind of always the same thing every morning. At lunchtime, maybe, but then they also I think they had the buffet in the dining room. That was like I said, it was kind of long, and their food was decent. I do remember having some decent food on there. I don't know if anything like blew me away. I remember they would have high tea. They had high tea the first day. They might have had it every day, which tea, whatever. But then they had also like little pastries and I do and fruit and stuff like that. That was kind of tasty, if I remember correctly. That one was not bad. Kind of nice to have something a little different, I guess you could say. Um, yeah, so the food, yeah, the food wasn't too bad. Again, I don't know if I remember anything that stood out in my mind that blew me away with it, but I don't remember anything that was awful or unedible either. One night, I believe they even had like a barbecue, like a Greek barbecue, and you had your lamb and your shish kebab and all those tasty meats that us Greeks love to eat. Um, Let me see here. What else did they have? They had, and just other things like a cruise ship might see. They would make towel animals. The cabin steward would make towel animals and put that in your room. You come in and you see those. They had some of those. Walking around, I remember one time seeing like this giant carving in a watermelon. In a watermelon, I guess. I mean, it was a watermelon was normal size, was a giant watermelon, but they carved like a face. They carved a face in the watermelon, which I thought was kind of cool. I took a picture of that, and um, and I really liked. What another thing that I thought was pretty cool with them, very unique, was their basic drinks that they have. So everyone has basic drinks. It's not a package; it's basic drinks. Water, there's going to be water, tea, lemonade, things like that. They had all that stuff, but included was more than just those. I mean, like there were certain coffees and certain alcoholic drinks that you could get that was part of the basic drinks that you didn't have to pay for. I love that. That was probably that may have been one of my favorite things that you could do that. And now, of course, they had other specialty coffees and other alcoholic drinks that you could purchase. It wasn't open bar that way, but they had certain ones that you could get. And I thought that was fascinating. I tried one of the coffee ones. I'm not a coffee drinker, but just it was there. One of their iced coffees. It was okay, and I think I gave it to Selena because I'm not a coffee drinker, but I just tried it. And I forgot one of the other alcoholic drinks I tried. Um, I just thought that was really cool that they had that. You don't get to see that too often. And along with the package with the cruise, we also were able to get two free tours while we were out there as well. Again, not many cruise lines offer that, and I think because some of the bigger cruise lines are starting to do um, Athens and the Greek Isles more, I think that's part of their way of being able to compete with them. Um, that they'll give you some more drinks that maybe the other cruise lines wouldn't do. They'll offer to give you some free tours that the other cruise lines would charge you for. I think that's one of the ways that they compete with them. I'll talk about those tours in those other podcasts on the destinations, but it was cool to have two free tours, especially the one we took in Ephesus. I really loved. Definitely uh, enjoyed that one. That was probably my favorite thing that I saw on the whole trip. One of them, anyways. And I was really impressed with the cruise director. We talked to him briefly at one point, and he was a nice enough guy. But the thing that I was impressed the most with him, I guess you could say, was his way of delivery was very, very smooth, and he spoke multiple languages fluently and seamlessly. He would give one announcement, let's say in Greek, and then the exact same announcement in English, and then the exact same announcement in French, and then go down the line, and he spoke like five, six different languages. We were blown away by that, and it wasn't someone who um, might need to like give themselves a second or two to translate it in their own head, and you can kind of see them stumbling around or not being able to speak very fluently with it or seamlessly. It wasn't any of that. There was not a stumble. There was not a hesitation. There was not a second. It was just do 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 do. one language, do 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 do, the other language, do 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 do, the other. That was incredible. I was highly impressed by what he was able to do in that regards, and it made sense too because um, there were so many people from different areas, even though it wasn't like this humongous cruise ship with with thousands and thousands of people on board. They still had a lot of different nationalities that were there um, from different areas, from the States, from Greece, from France, from Italy, whatever it was. They had a lot of different um, nationalities on board, and being able to seamlessly go through those different announcements in those different language, I thought was quite impressive. The layout of the ship was kind of interesting. Um, I'll talk about it, although I don't think the other ships are like this, and it's probably a good thing because it was a little unique, and I don't know if I care for it. But they had, every ship has entertainment. There's going to be shows on board. Theirs on this particular ship, the stage was like in the center, in the middle of the ship, as opposed to in the front. Usually the stages are in front. You might have other maybe extra theaters or bars or lounges or something that are maybe in the middle, but usually your main production shows are going to be up front. Theirs wasn't. Theirs was in the middle of the ship. Um, so I remember because of that, backstage I mean, you walk by backstage as you're going into if you came in from one side, you could come in from either side. And I remember walking in, looking over, and there I see people in the back there changing, doing their garment changes or wardrobe changing. Like, oh, okay, not used to seeing that walking by. Um, that was a little interesting, I guess you could say. Um, but as far as I know, and I say that as far as I know because I have not been on Celestial since. My dad has, and he says that this other ships that he's been on is not like that. My dad really likes Celestial. When he goes to Greece, which since mom died, he tries to go a couple times a year, and each time he likes to go on a cruise. Celestial is kind of his go-to. They're very reasonably priced. You're still going to get the same things that a cruise offers you. Maybe not as grand as some of the bigger ones, but you're still going to get the same. You're going to get food, all you can eat food. You're going to get a place to stay. You're going to go see a lot of different destinations. You're going to get entertainment. Things that I do love about being on a cruise, you're still going to get. Um, and so he goes. He likes to. He likes to go on them. He likes where they stop, especially he likes where they stop. I mean, they because they're not big, it does help being able to get to some of those Greek islands. Some of the Greek islands might be a little bit more difficult for bigger ships to get into just because of the waters. Um, if need be, they can always tender out, I suppose. But they go to, like I say, a lot of different destinations in the Mediterranean, the Aegean Sea, and I like some of the names that they have for some of their cruises that they have. One is called the Steps of Paul is one of them, and there's what else do they have? Um, I forget. They kind of they kind of name them different things, but that one always stood out in my mind. See if I can look them up. Idyllic, Aegean, Desert Days, and Double Grand Prix, Heavenly Adriatic, and yeah, some different names. I'll try looking them up here. Um, yeah, so they go around different areas, which is nice. There was uh, a couple. I remember there was some people that we saw there. I'm just going to add this into it. There was a family. I want to say they were from Canada, and he was originally from like Egypt. They had a few boys, and somehow we always saw them on the ship. We always saw them. We went out destination, always saw them. We come back after the cruise. Me and Selena come home. My family moves on. They go like a couple hours inland, see another part of Greece. They see him there. It's kind of funny. It has nothing to do with the cruise line. I just wanted to share. I thought that was funny that family continued to pop up everywhere we went, even afterwards. Um, there was also, I thought this was nice. It was entertaining. In addition to the big production show, they had they had Greek music, live Greek music. That there was a band and a singer. They may be a singer, a couple singers. Um, and they would play like in a smaller bar in a different area, bar, lounge area, whatever you want to call it. And initially, I guess this must have, I think this got lost in translation somewhere, but initially, um, said, yeah, come and listen to them. Be like a private, be a private show. And I thought it was for my dad's cousin because, like I said, this man gets connections all over the place for what somehow, some way in Greece, he gets connections all the time. So I thought, honestly, when I heard like it's a private show, I was like, oh wow, okay, well, I guess we'll go and see this private show, And it was kind of late. It was like after the main production. It was a little bit later. Went down there and they had a live band with the bouzouki and singing and everything. They did both Greek and English songs. Thought that was nice, and they did it multiple nights. Well, one of the nights there was a bunch of people that ended up showing up. I was like, okay, I guess this isn't private. I thought this was like a private showing to us. It was like, but apparently it was like a little lost in translation there. Basically, what they were saying was no one was showing up to the show. So if we were there, it was going to be like a private show because no one else was there. Like, okay, that explains it. Wasn't necessarily a private show for us, but did get to because there wasn't hardly anyone there the first couple nights we went. We did get to talk to the performers, and that was kind of cool. Get to know them a little bit. Very nice people, and one of the singers, she did very well, and it looks like I started like noticing her, following her like on social media, and she looks like she's doing pretty well for herself, doing some other gigs outside of that. So good for her, good for them. They were enjoyable. I like their music. It was nice listening to them. And let's see what else. All in all, decent little cruise line. And I haven't been back on them yet. If I get to go to Greece again, we'll see. Um, to see what like their newer ships are. When I say newer, they got them from somebody else. They're like brand new ships, but they're newer to them. Um, I guess very similar to what I thought about when I went on Margaritaville at Sea is what I was thinking about with Celestial. Uh, and and a couple months ago, maybe even longer than that now, time flies. I actually went to like a travel agent show, trade show, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And there was different reps there from different, companies, different travel companies, and someone was there from Celestial, um, and she, got to talking with her, a very nice lady, and she was the one that told me about Celestial Olympia and what happened. Just I think they sold it, got rid of it, whatever it was, not even in the fleet anymore. But she had booked this humongous group for him, and I guess Celestial was doing well. For being a smaller cruise liner, it does sound like they get full up. My dad was looking for next year and was already like sold out. So they definitely, I think, have a popularity to them. And she was here in the States selling cruises for it. So it's not just a local in Greece. Uh, only people in Greece can get it, or maybe in Europe, but it's it has gained popularity to other parts of the world too, including the United States. You may have heard of them, you may not. It's Celestial. It's spelled with a Y instead of an I. Um, and they're not bad. I don't know if I'll be honest. They might not have been my exact favorite out of all the cruises that I've gone to. Doesn't mean I don't like them. I try to always give. I like the illustration of you may have five different pizzas. You rate four out of five of them a 10, and the fifth one's a 9. It technically is the lowest score, but it doesn't mean it was a bad score. 9 out of 10 is pretty good. I did still enjoy being on that cruise with them. I enjoyed being with my family, probably most of all. Again, it was my first time being able to be there with additional family. Some of them were their first time, so I always enjoy. being able to be with someone on their first time on a cruise, since I love it and brag about being on a cruises all the time. So all in all, yeah, it was a nice ship, nice cruise line, and and I would give them another try. I would go on them again if if the opportunity presented itself. I would I didn't hate them. I thought they were good, and I would give them a shot again and enjoy it again. So if it's something that you would like to do or look into, um, being able to go out and enjoy the Greek islands, the Greek, the many different things that are out there in either the Mediterranean or the Aegean Sea, let me know. j.paradise.travels@gmail.com is my email address. You can email me and we can touch base that way, or you can reach out to me either on Instagram and or Facebook at Jay's Paradise Travels. There's no apostrophe in that, just Jays, Jay's Paradise Travels, and I would love to be able to help you with that or any other cruise or vacation that you're looking to go on. I do appreciate listening to this, and may have sounded like I was all over the place again. I did not initially write down notes like I would evaluate my experience on a cruise line or cruise ship. I actually was going to just mention a few things and then talk about the destinations. But as I continue to write things down, usually I have it organized. I have it by ship, I have it by food, I have it by entertainment, all that. I didn't do all that for this. I was just jotting notes down, but my notes became longer. And I thought, you know what? I think I have enough here to do an episode just solely on that and save the other destinations for other episodes, which I was going to do anyways. But instead of just briefly mention it, actually go into it and actually talk about it. So we went out of Piraeus, Athens, and I think they continue to do that. But I think they also have other areas that they go out of as well. Lavrios is another Athens port, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Um, but let's just put it this way: Greece is absolutely beautiful to visit. You will not regret your time going to Greece, going on a cruise. And if the way you'd like to see it is by Celestial, I am partnered with them. I can sell you a cruise for that. I do it for my dad multiple times, um, and I'm sure he would love to even show you around too. Anyways, but yeah, so just let me know if you do. You can reach out to me. Thank you again for listening to this podcast. Please like, rate, subscribe, share. If there's any comments you want to make or respond to a poll question I have, please do it. All the activities like that help podcasters continue their podcast. So uh, please continue to do those things. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something from it. And I hope to hear from you one of these days. And I'll talk to you again another time. Take care. Bye bye.